A very, very, very bad day in Virginia. Tim, I feel like I can already answer this question before I ask you. Like, Donald Trump is incapable of taking responsibility for any of this, but do you think there's any recalibration among the people around him?
I have to think that Mitch McConnell looked at Kentucky, and they've looked at what's happened with suburban turnout, and the little beads on his political advocates are getting moved up and down. And I think that matters in terms of how he decides to handle the trial in the Senate and how long GOP stands fully behind Trump. I don't think any of this is going to come home to roost quickly enough to change the outcome in the Senate. But of course, it's got to worry them. And you know, I was talking to a longtime Republican consultant last night who said one of the things that all the GOP pollsters and consultants are scared about right now is how energized voters are. Yeah. And you're going to have a big turnout, and a big turnout is good for the Democrats. And Donald Trump is this centrifugal, energizing force of people away from him towards change. And I think that they've got to worry about that. And I think these things are indices of that. You know, I'm not a fan of projecting onto a general election the results of off year, but except when I am. And if you look at the midterms and you look at where the victories were, I mean, I think that's it. You look at where the blows were. They were in the kinds of, and I spent a lot of time in 2016 out talking to women, the women's vote, in these kinds of suburban counties that swung the other way. And you look at Virginia. I mean, he is changed, and he may bring out enough new voters in rural parts of these states, but he is turning off suburban voters in a way that is indisputable.
All over the country. That's in some way the unifying story last night. It was true in Kentucky, where suburban Cincinnati voters turned out in huge numbers and voted for the Democratic, for Beshear, the way in a reverse of how they had voted 4 years ago. It was true in Virginia. It was true in the counties surrounding Philadelphia, a county there that had been controlled by Republicans since the Civil War that flipped Democratic last night. Donald Trump is the one thing about him is that he is polarizing. Everyone talks about his base, and it's true that he has been able to unite white working class voters, and he is a turnout machine for white working class voters. But the other side of that is that he doesn't just repel suburban voters, but he turns them out. He was a turnout machine in Kentucky last night, both for his side and for the other side. Turnout was through the roof from 4 years ago. And if you look at where Senate races are going to be decided in the next term, Arizona, Colorado, Maine, places with big suburban communities, gets back to this question of how nervous Mitch McConnell starts to be about having Donald Trump at the top of the ticket.
I feel like you watch these things with realism. So what did you think? Just we're almost at time. What did you think last time you saw the results?
I saw in Virginia and I saw in Kentucky that you have a president that people want to take a swing at. Even people who like their local Republicans and like their Republican governors, they can't stand this guy, and they're looking at these local elections as a way to say, I don't like you, Donald Trump, and they're taking it to vote.
Like an outlet.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We are going to sneak in our last break. We'll be right back. So it's one of these days. If you could have seen the breaks, they were so good. My thanks to Matt Miller, Tim O'Brien, Jason Johnson, most of all to you for watching. That does it for our MTP Daily with Chuck Todd starts now.